In this video, we will be talking about power. And power is just the rate at which work is done. So it's work over time. So the units are the units of work, joules, divided by the unit of time, seconds. And we call that a watt. And for shorthand, we can make a big W. So power is work over time. So power is very similar to speed in a certain way. Remember that speed was kind of the distance that you traveled and however long it took you to travel that distance. So that I could say, well, I went 100 meters, and you could say, yeah, I went 100 meters too, but we could have very different speeds, right? I could say, well, I went 100 meters, so Mr. U went 100 meters in 10 seconds. It's really fast, actually. Right? And you could say that, well, that means that I went 10 meters every second. And that you, we're going to assume that you're not as fast as that. I don't know why. Let's say it took you twice that long. So it took you 20 seconds to do 100 meters. Then we would say that you went 5 meters every second. And that although we went the same distance, per second, I was going much further than you. So we could say that speed is really it's the rate at which you travel. Not just how far, but how long it takes you as well. And we see that power is very similar. So instead of distance traveled, power talks about work. So if you do a lot of work in a small amount of time, you have a very high power. If you do that same amount of work in a really, 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 really long amount of time, then your power is going to be fairly low. Because although you did a lot of work, the amount of work you did per second wasn't very high. So let's do an example. And the one I like to use is someone who is running up the Sears Tower. Which is 443 meters high. And so they have this race in Chicago. And say we have a runner who is a 50 kilogram runner, and she completes the race to the top in 15 minutes. And we want to know what her power is. So the first step is to calculate the work. And we know that the work for going against gravity, right? So she's climbing the stairs, which means she's lifting her own mass, right? So she's going to do work against gravity. So the work that she does is going to be equal to her mass times the acceleration due to gravity, because that's the force that she needs to lift herself up against gravity, times the distance that she's lifting herself. So for us, that's going to be 50 kilograms times 9.81 meters per second squared times 443 meters. And that's going to give us 2.17 times 10 to the 5th joules. And the time, so remember that a watt is a joule per second. We have time in minutes right now, so let's go ahead and just convert 15 minutes to seconds. Right, so 1 minute, 60 seconds. So that's going to give us 900 seconds. So now we have our time, we have our work, so our power is simply 2.17 times 10 to the 5th joules divided by 900 seconds. That's going to give us 241 watts. Ta-da!